All right, welcome back to day number 13, I believe it is, of the Daily Live Challenge. Now, today I want to talk about a topic of, this concept that I was talking to a business owner about building a business or about training staff. And this concept that came up was just the reality that whatever you're building, whatever you're doing, there is going to be some level of assembly required. So when you think about this concept of buying something, a lot of times if you get it in pieces, you got to take the time to put it together. Like a couple of years ago, I bought a new bike and the bike came. I mean, it was great. It was a big box, but there were pieces that I had to put together. I had to figure out how to put connect the chain, connect the wheels, the frame, connect the brakes. Now, had I connected the brakes the wrong way when it was time for me to actually ride the bike and use the brakes, we would have had a serious issue if I connected it the wrong way. So I literally had to sit on the floor, take time, and kind of use that manual, or I should say the owner's manual, in the process of building out that bicycle. And it took me some time to build it out, but it was necessary if I wanted the bike to work properly. And the same thing tends to happen when it comes to your business. Let's say, you are building a business and you're trying to get your business to be successful. Or let's say you're onboarding and you're training new staff and you're trying to get your staff to be successful. Well, you're going to have to actually put in some work to get things where they need to be. Because what I see with a lot of business owners, and I was guilty of this myself, is the first time I hired somebody, you're thinking like, okay, this person is qualified, they can do the job. But I really didn't understand or appreciate how much effort I had to put in up front to get them where they needed to be productive in the business. And I know a lot of times when you're talking to people, they think that, hey, I'm just going to hire great people and we're not going to have this issue. And I'm like, no matter who you hire, there is still going to be some level of onboarding or some level of understanding that they need to get to actually be effective within your company. Because here's the thing, even when you have started a new job, like it does take you a little bit of time to actually get used to how does that organization actually operate. Like you may have had the skills, you may have had the prior experience, but it still does take some time for you to kind of get into the rhythm or for you to understand like, okay, how does this company handle this process versus how do they do this process? And that does take time. And if you're willing to invest the time up front to really help your new employees, your new staff learn the ropes of the system, like you may not have to teach them the technical skills, but you may have to actually give them a refresher on, hey, here's how things work. And here's how we do it as a company. Because the more you can really invest that time up front to really work with your new staff members and to really help them really put together their strategy or put together a plan for them to be effective in your organization, the better it is going to be. So here's what I tend to tell people when they are starting within our company. The first thing that I do is I make sure that it is very clear. Here's what the expectation is for your role. Like now, I will say I haven't always been the greatest at doing that, when people have started. But after learning the hard way a couple times, I realized you need to make it very clear what you expect of people when they join the company. After we lay out what is expected of them, the next thing we want to look at is, okay, all right, let's just make sure that I provide you with the necessary resources for you to do your job. If we go back to that example of, assembling the bike, one of the things that I needed to understand is first, I got a picture of what the bike looked like as a finished product. The next thing I needed to make sure is, did I have all of the right pieces to actually do it and actually build the bike successfully? And you have to think about that with your new staff members is, do they have all the right tools that they need to be able to do their job effectively and their job successfully? And then the next thing we got to do is, have I provided them with the right level of instruction and guidance for them to be successful? Again, They may have the technical skill, they may know how to do the details, but if they don't know how to do it within your organization, then they're not really set up to be successful. And if you compare this back to the example of building the bike, it's like, all right, I have the picture of what the bike is supposed to look like. I have all of the parts that I'm going to need. And then do I have a manual that's going to walk me through some of the critical steps? Like, it's not going to tell me every single detail. Like, it's not going to tell me how many times I need to turn the screwdriver or how many times I need to turn the wrench, but it will give me some general guidance on how to actually put this part of the bike together. Now, the makers of the bike are assuming that I know how to use a wrench. They're assuming that they don't have to teach me that part because that's a technical skill I should already know. But what they aren't assuming is that I know the right order that this specific bike should come together. And that's what you do as a leader in your organization when you're hiring new people or you have new staff in your team. It's like you do have to teach them how the rhythm and the patterns work within your company. Because if you can do those three things effectively and consistently, what you're going to do is you're going to set your people up for success, which is going to be a huge benefit for you because you don't have to just keep jumping in and trying to fix things on the back end. Again, if we go back to that bike example, what would have happened if I would have skipped some steps in the process of building that bike? And let's say I'm out riding my bike and I'm going down a hill and things are speeding up. But what if I didn't assemble the brakes properly? We would have had a huge disaster. And a lot of times, businesses are running into those huge disasters because they haven't stopped long enough to say, hey, how do we make sure that we set this thing up so that our people are set up to be successful? Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It does take time to really slow down and set that up. And it's part of the reason why we came up with the Golden Age of Business process, because the Golden Age of Business process was really all about like, okay, all right, how do we take a step back and make sure that we're giving people the right framework so that they can be successful within our organization? Because it is very expensive to fire and hire people. It can be very timely, and or I guess you say it can cost you a lot of time to actually go through that training process. But in the long run, it is going to do nothing but benefit your organization. And here's the thing is once you've taken one employee through that more thorough kind of onboarding process, you can continue to reuse the process, maybe with some slight tweaks in it, but now, every time you hire a new person, you already have the system laid out. You already have the framework. You already have the process. Now you just got to use what you already have. So, hey, thanks for tuning in to day number 13 of the Daily Challenge.